So Teisha Powell joins us right now. Hey, Teisha.
Hi, and I guess the breaking news is President Obama just endorsed Joe Biden. And I'm like, wow, one establishment after the next, John.
Wow, what timing.
What timing? Joe Biden don't stop racking up the establishment. Wow.
Oh, well, it sure seems like this has been in the works for a while. And, now I think it's becoming more and more clear that Obama was behind this whole thing all the way back to Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar breaking up the Bernie vote.
Yeah, I think Obama waited because he didn't want us to know it's rigged. But the way it's ending, we all know it's rigged, which is sad. It's a sad day for Americans, but
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's probably the worst thing that could have happened to them because I think they would have had a lot better chance if they went and moved to somebody like Andrew Cuomo or something.
well, maybe it's too late for Andrew Cuomo, John, because you do know that there's like 8 women that have sexual allegations against Joe Biden, right? And CNN is just not somehow reporting these stuff.
No, of course not.
If people don't tune into Newsmax, they're not going to get the real story on what's really going on with Joe Biden. This is why we have networks like this, because people really need to know
Tisha,
what
yeah, let me
type
let me ask you about that because you know a lot about this. You're an attorney, um,
and
so
a writer.
and a writer and a great television host and a former model. I know. I already said all that stuff. You don't have to remind us about that
Thank you,
stuff.
John.
Okay, but no, dead serious. Uh, a woman came forward and said that she had a groggy memory of a time when she was in high school where someone that she thinks might have looked like Brett Kavanaugh tried to physically assault her or sexually assault her. There was never not one piece of material proof, okay? And they took a Supreme Court justice candidate all the way to public hearings in the Senate, right? Why is
Yes.
this woman who is saying that she's personally saying Joe Biden did this to me on this day at this place and I told these two people about it? Why won't the left-wing media even give that woman the respect of taking her allegation seriously?
Because this is a election year and they want Joe Biden to win, and this is why we know that the media is biased, because this is not only Tara Reid, this one woman. There's seven more that are coming forward,
I
and the
know, but
stories are just been whoop,
there's
whoop.
strength in numbers and then there's dilution in numbers, right? So
True.
let's forget about the seven more for now. I'm talking about all the women, the Alyssa Milanos of the world, and all these women's activists who are out there, me tooing it, me tooing it, me tooing it. How come when a woman who has no history of making these allegations before comes forward and says, this guy did this to me? I'm not saying guilt by accusation, like let's not call Joe Biden guilty already, but let's give it the same exact interest. Like the people that weren't for Bloomberg were going after the women who had filed sexual assault cases against Trump. They didn't stick up for those women, okay?
That's exactly what I'm wondering as well, John. And I thank God for journalists like you who are going to keep these stories alive. But why are these women, why are they less than other women? I mean, when it was President Trump, they kept playing this tape over and over and over again. Harry Weinstein, he's in jail. But Joe Biden, why all of a sudden it's like, shut up. These women no longer count. Their voices are dead. Why isn't CNN and MS, why aren't they picking up on these stories? Why should we not hear these ladies, what they have to say?
No, Tisha, you're so right. And that's why I'm asking you as an attorney because, in some cases, okay, the Me Too movement took down, one of the largest entertainment moguls in the world in Harvey Weinstein, okay, and ultimately took down Bill Cosby, arguably one of the greatest entertainers or humorists of all time, right? Big time people. You would think this would be the perfect opportunity for a movement like that to show that they're not political, that they're for equal rights and take a little more, aggressive advocacy for finding out the facts on this thing.
John, they want the story to be killed. That's exactly what's going to happen. Unless we keep it alive, it's going to be killed. Biden campaign is doing nothing about it. The Democratic campaign is doing nothing about it. This might be the reason Joe Biden wants a woman to run as VP. Maybe he knows about these sexual allegations, things I don't know. Maybe
he knows. Just like Trump knew, everybody. Of course he knows. But Teisha, you know what?
Of course he knows.
Of course he knows. The guy knows what he did, and unless the woman's a wacko. But when you say they're going to kill it, because I know somewhere in the background of this establishment move for Joe Biden is Obama, but also, the whole Hillary team is behind there also doing all kinds of data, and from Mayor Pete, and now they're part of Biden's organization. Do you think they may kill the woman to kill the story?
No, kill the story. The story is going to die. They're trying to kill the story. They somehow don't want people to know that while Joe Biden is running for the highest office, that he's got some sexual allegations, there are alleged sexual allegations against him. And they should be addressed. We should address them because these women deserve to be heard. Because this is going to affect 50% of the voters. We have a right to know what exactly Joe Biden did and what's being done about it. I mean, they have a problem with Joe Biden having personal space right now in the campaign. We've heard people complain that he's going way too close to people.
Yeah,
all of a sudden we have these allegations.
No doubt. There's all these videos of him out there rubbing his nose in people's ears and putting his arm around their shoulder like in the wrong place. And look, I didn't like it. I didn't like it when they were extrapolating these things to Trump when he was a billionaire playboy for years. But Joe Biden's been in the public eye for pretty much most of his life. I think, Teisha, at this point, it's like Weekend at Bernie. I don't even think Biden's really still in the game mentally anymore. I think they just, kind of rolling him out there in front of a teleprompter. Like, he used a teleprompter the other day when he and Bernie did a Zoom meeting for Bernie to give him his endorsement, and he used a teleprompter. If you need a teleprompter to accept the endorsement from Bernie Sanders, and you can't just do that on the fly, then you're probably not ready to be president, in my view.
That's so true. And what's also shocking, John, as you said, is the fact that Bernie Sanders went and endorsed the establishment, Joe Biden. And I just want to remind those voters, just come on Trump train, because Trump is always fighting the establishment. And even though Bernie gave in to the establishment, President Trump hasn't. So come on the Trump train. Because, John, you know what it's like working on a campaign? You actually believe in everything.
Yeah, right. You can't
They
just
put the
automatically
establishment.
love the other guy that you were trying to bomb 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
I don't
exactly.
mean bomb like physically, but, Staten Island, they do crazy things. But, Teisha, I don't know, I think in the last presidential election, somewhere between 10 and 15% of Bernie supporters actually voted for Trump. Okay, he got some of those rebel votes. Like, you know what? You screwed over Bernie. I'm not going for you. I'm going against you. And then there was another portion of those folks who they didn't go out and go as far as pulling the lever for Trump, but they just said, deuces, I'm not going and voting for Hillary. So there was a stay-at-home factor. And I think a lot of those people who maybe did the stay-at-home last time, now they're seeing the picture. Bernie got hosed again, okay? And I don't want to be part of this machine. And screw it. I'll give Trump 4 more years over these animals because they don't deserve it. And then we'll get our forces together for the next one. And I think it's backfiring, if you ask me, because, look, Trump ain't perfect. He's got flaws like every one of us. We're all made from God's hand, and we got flaws and we're sinners, all right? But if he didn't come at the exact time he did, we'd be in a heck of a lot more trouble right now today than we are.
I tell everybody, God make no mistakes. You always wondered why a billionaire run for office, and now I see why. It will take a billionaire to get us out of this recession, and God knew that. That's why He sent President Trump. And people say, "Oh, I'm speaking for God." I'm not speaking for God, but the Bible did say our presidents are picked by God, and I believe that God knew that Trump needed to be president this time, and he needs to be president. Trump needs to be president for the next 4 years to get us out of this recession and to get China out of the hands of the American people.
So, what are you doing these days? Because every time I see you, you're one day you're in that room, now you're in this room. What are you doing? Were you getting some legal work done from home, or are you just spending time with the baby and doing home research?
Well, I'm writing my third book, and I am taking care of my kids, and we do read the Bible every day because I do need to read the Bible in order to write the third book. So, yeah, I'm trying to challenge myself to write a book in 30 days. So the
Well,
self quarantine is working well. Well, 25,000 words already, John.
why is this a faith-based book or?
No, it will be released probably by the end of December. I'll have another book next year.
No, I said is it faith-based because you said
Oh
you
yeah,
said to
no.
you need to
I
read the
always
Bible to write your book.
because you know if it's we need God in America, and that's why I'm part of like telling people about the government because the government has the power to eradicate God from our lives. This is why we have to watch government because yeah, God was one of the first persons to form government. We think about what's going on in Israel. This is another reason why we're backing Trump. If you're big on Israel, you're going to be big on Trump. If you're a Christian, you're going to be big on Trump. You know, I'm not telling every born again person before John gets the emails. I'm not telling every born again person to go out and vote for Trump, but I am saying that you should read your Bible as a Christian. And I would think that the Republican Party and President Trump is a better pick for us as Christians than the Democratic Party is because Israel is important to us.
No, I'm with you on that. I think Trump
And
Trump
that's what
has
I'm telling
been a
people.
bigger
Anybody who reads
supporter.
the Bible, come on and vote for Trump because Israel is important to us.
Trump has been a bigger supporter of Israel than
Amen.
some of the, some of the Jewish legislators in the Democratic Party. But what about what are the ramifications of, we all know now that China was behind covering up the real veracity of this virus. We know that they covered it up. They worked with their co-conspirators over at the WHO. Also, Bill Gates is on the board of the WHO. The Gates Foundation is one of the biggest donors to WHO. And when China didn't want everybody else in the world to know how bad things were, they were feeding the WHO a healthy dose of BS. And the WHO was going out there as their shill saying, no international emergency. On January 23rd, they said they see no, this is the words of the WHO in a global advisory, they see no evidence of human transition outside of China, outside of Wuhan. So when they knew what was happening, now we know they knew what was happening, and they
Yes.
shielded it, and they let more and more people come here, and whatever happened, transmissions across Europe and everywhere else, okay, because China's a major hub, and should we not pull our funding from them right now?
Yes, that's what President Trump is right. But it looks like who is such a powerful entity. It doesn't matter if America pulled back money right now. I think over the years, the Obama administration have made who such a powerful entity that even without our money, they're going to be okay. And, I don't think people should be surprised of what China did. President Trump has been telling us China manipulate currency, China manipulate trade deal. Why wouldn't China manipulate the WHO organization? This is just how the Chinese work. They're very manipulative people. And it's
Absolutely.
sad because, John, you and I live in New York. You and I both know people probably who are going to die from this virus. So it just shows you that real people are hurting, and both WHO and China don't really give a crap.
I am an optimist, so unfortunately, I already know some people who have passed because of COVID, and I'm hoping, that that's all I know of. But, I'm with you, darling. And
But just show this is courtesy of China. Who would think in a million years that China and WHO organization would affect people in New York just by lying to us, lying, not being truthful. This honesty, it doesn't pay. And this is why we need Trump in office, because Trump is going to bring the hands of China. Probably Trump will bring China to its knees. It's about time somebody put China in its place.
Well, I don't think it's any surprise, Teisha, that right after the phase one of the China tariffs go into effect, and we come up with a deal where they say they're not going to manipulate their currency, and then all of a sudden, oh, we forgot to tell you, we got this little Wuhan virus floating over your way. So I think I think personally, people say, oh, don't be a conspiracy theorist, John, don't. It's not conspiracy theory. We're in a war with China and Russia for the most of our existence. And there's all pleasantries. When you got frenemies, when like one of your really good friends has a party at their place or something, and it's a smaller, intimate gathering, but you have to go, but there's someone there you hate, and your one friend says, just say hello to each other and stay away from each other, right? You haven't forgiven this person, they haven't forgiven you, but you're both going to be in the same social realm for a little bit because you have to, because you got other common friends, right? That's what happens with China and Russia, okay? And the U.S. They're not our friends. They're the frenemies. The Swiss and the Germans and the U.K., they all do these things to try to keep us all together. Truth of the matter is, they hate us and we hate them. And they're not immune to using chemical warfare and killing their own people. They run over their people in the street with tanks if they protest. You know what I'm saying?
So true,
I don't think they care about human rights.
That's so true, but I do think Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, I think they do love China. It was this year that Hunter Biden came off the board, a Chinese board, and that's only because he was probably forced to come off there. So I think that the Bidens feel like China, we should be giving a lot of stuff to China. And I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Biden runs on that ticket. Let's just give America to China.
Yeah, well, when you say you won't be surprised if he runs on that ticket, don't be surprised if he's not already running on that ticket, because there's all kinds of evidence out there of Hunter Biden riding on Air Force Two over to China with Joe Biden on a vice presidential visit, blah, blah, and then all of a sudden some of the Chinese banks and sovereign funds put like $1.5 billion into some hedge fund he was part of. So China's already looking up and saying, all right, look, Trump, we got to get this guy out of there because he's foiling our whole plan. And we got to go with Biden. They probably called up Obama and called up Hillary Clinton and Bill Gates and said, listen, here's what we're going to do. Let's do this. We'll slow everything down. We'll roll Joe out there. 6 months in, Joe will die. We'll put in a vice president right now that we want to be the next president, blah, blah, blah. That's the plan. That's the plan.
And John, what you said, no wonder Bill Gates predicted that we'd have a buyer. Bill Gates did predict this kind of mess, but he's part of the WHO organization. Now, Bill Gates, I guess he wants to create something to put a chip in all of our hands. It's crazy.
It's crazy. What they're saying is, what some of the more, outlying conspiracy theory sites is that, that they want to get vaccine. The more vaccines they can get into you, the more they can use social programming to get you to act or react in a certain way. And then supposedly there's this, I think, 5-year plan or 10-year plan that people who agree to be monitored, it used to be a chip, but now it could be by your cell phone. If they get one vaccination, then they could be monitored. But they could start telling you, don't go to that Starbucks today because there's too many calories in a latte, and they could send you over to Latte Larry's over there for a more healthy drink, right? Your payment. They can once they control you, and they can legally surveil you at everything you do, then they control our entire life.
And this is what Christians are afraid of, because the Bible told us about the mark of the beast. It's going to come in the form of a government, and they are going to put a chip in our hands, and it's going to be 666. And this is why people don't want Bill Gates giving them a chip. because most people already read the Bible and they want to have no part of doing with the chip. But it's just interesting and odd that that Joe Biden wants things made in China and President Trump wants things made in America. We have two fights going on here right now in front of our eyes, John. We have Joe Biden pushing all the jobs to China and Donald Trump pulling the jobs from China. And that's what this election is going to be about. Joe Biden is going to try to make a case for China, and Donald Trump is going to make a case for America. Donald Trump wants everything made in America. Joe Biden wants everything made in China.
Well, look, I think, American people also have to take the blame a little bit because, the stuff coming from China's cheaper. So when you look at you get the China one. But truthfully, I think most people I know, after seeing this and understanding, I think most people would rather pay 20 cents more for something that says made in the USA than knowing that we're saving a couple bucks on this or that or the other thing. But we're just furthering China's resistance to us.
I think we all see the fallout in capitalism today. We cannot have 100% of our items being made in China. Why did the politicians, Trump is not even a politician, he's one of us, he's just normal like you and me. But why are people like Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders and President Obama, why did they allow all these manufacturers to go over to China and left nothing here for us?
Teisha, I don't know. I have to agree with you. All I know is we got a guy who's doing something for us now.
Praise God.
Praise God is right. And this is probably the largest attack. Because, I mean, you would think right now, in the midst of a pandemic where the whole country has to band together, you would think they'd let up on the guy a little bit.
No, but I do see all of what President Trump is saying needs to come true. He needs to build that wall. I really can't imagine them not giving money to Trump to build this wall, because these are stuff now we're going to have to protect ourselves against, these disease. And it looks to me one of the only way to protect from these diseases is a physical barrier around us where we could shut the doors real quick.
Well, I like your style a lot, but I don't think at this current moment we're going to get extra funding to build the wall right now. But I like the way you think. You gotta think big.
Well, you think about, all I can think about, John, is the fact that how did the Chinese get to close off so quickly and America didn't? Because they had a physical barrier. If we had that wall, we'd have been there too.
Well, I think China has a little more control over their humans than we do here in the U.S. If they say don't leave, I don't think they need the wall for that. But they're definitely keeping their people in, that's for sure.